Here in Malaysia's largest city, Kuala Lumpur, police have launched a crackdown to try to stop a protest against a law that allows for indefinite detention without trial. Dozens of people have been arrested ahead of the protest that calls on the government to abandon the Internal Security Act, otherwise known as the ISA. The government warned that, quote, stern action will be taken against anyone taking part in the demonstrations. Our correspondent Harry Fawcett sent this report from downtown Kuala Lumpur.
We're here in the Masjid Jamek area of central Kuala Lumpur, one of the key meeting points for protesters planning to take part in this march. It's also turned into one of the main collection points for the police in this area, who are rounding up people they suspect of taking part in this march, and they're putting them in this van behind me. Anyone from their identity cards or their clothing they suspect of participation is being taken here. We saw some of those arrests a little bit earlier on. So even before this protest has got underway, the police tactic seems to be preemptive detention to try to take the sting out of it. Somewhat ironic when you think that the whole issue itself is about preventive detention. The ISA, the Internal Security Act here, is a means of locking people up who the authorities say pose a threat to national security. It initially came into force in the 1960s, inherited itself from the British colonial rule as a means of fighting a communist insurgency. That insurgency is long gone, and the ISA's opponents say it's being used as a political tool to suppress opposition to the ruling party in this country. The government itself says that that's nonsense, that it's in fact reviewing the ISA, and that review will take place and come to some conclusions at a future date. The new Prime Minister, when he came to power in April, released a number of detainees. So they're saying that there's nothing to protest about, but still we could see some serious protests in a short while here in the centre of Kuala Lumpur. Harry Fawcett, Al Jazeera in Kuala Lumpur.
Well, in the last few minutes, we've heard that police have fired tear gas to break up the rally. For the latest, let's get back to Harry, who is still among the protesters. What's been going on, Harry?
Well, I have to say, since I recorded that segment earlier as people were preparing to protest, the tenor of this has changed dramatically. People had been gathering outside one of the major department stores here, and they'd been dispersed both from there and the Masjid Jamek area where I was. But almost on the stroke of 2, when this protest, local time, when this protest was due to start, the protesters immediately congregated and started moving away from their planned route, round across one of the main rivers here in Kuala Lumpur and towards the opposition headquarters, the Islamic Pass Party opposition headquarters. Police scrambled. They have had riot police, the so-called Federal Reserve Unit, on standby. They immediately swung into action and started firing tear gas at this very large group of protesters walking down one of the major roads here. Seen some estimates, it's difficult to tell when you're in among it, but some estimates of 20,000 or so. There was, I have to say, no violent confrontation coming from the protesters, but they were tear gassed. They dispersed. They tried to meet again near the department store. They were tear gassed again there, and water cannon was fired. So there's no question that both before the protest began and since it started in earnest, police have cracked down very hard, and it has to be said, at this point at least, seemingly successfully.
Harry, we should mention that the Islamic Party Pass that you've mentioned has indeed asked its membership, it's made it compulsory for all its members to turn up and join in these demonstrations. So has the police action been enough to put people off? They're supposed to be headed to the King's Palace, aren't they?
Well, yeah, I mean, that seems to have been one of the strategies on offer, both to deter people from turning up, once they had turned up in preparation to march, to single out potentially known faces and anyone with insignia or T-shirts or other signs that there would be protesters. And that might well have lowered the numbers to some extent, but still it has to be said there was a large number of people that seemingly all at once, there must have been some coordination in this, that moved away from their planned route and down another route. But police responded very quickly to that and came down very hard.
If you could describe the mood among the protesters, how would it be? Is there some determination here? Is there a sense that they are really familiar with the issues here? Is this just to do with the Internal Security Act, which you've described? Is there more to it than that? From being among the protesters, certainly that most of the chanting
was about opposing the ISA. There was chants of Allah Akbar, God is great. Also chants harking back to the 90s when the Reformasi movement was underway. Chants of Reformasi as well. So I think it's far from just being an Islamic Party enterprise. This it's been organised by a pressure group which is explicitly against the ISA. Anwar Ibrahim, the opposition leader, was rumoured to have been on his way here to speak. We're not sure if that has taken place, but certainly members of his party and some of his close associates were here. So it's a wide-ranging organised protest. And as I say, that the people who were involved in it were chanting, but they certainly weren't behaving in a violent way. Their protest was, it has to be said, illegal, ruled so by the authorities here. But there wasn't any attempt that I could see, at least, from the part of the protest that I saw, of protesters to try to take on police. They've been very swiftly and pretty heavily dealt with.
There was some extra apprehension over the events of this afternoon, Harry, because there was a group that purported to be pro the Internal Security Act that was organising a demonstration very close to where the anti-ISA demonstrators were going to be. Has that panned out?
That's right. I have to preface this by saying that I wasn't at that meeting area for those pro-ISA people. We did hear reports that there was some minor scuffles there, that there had been a couple of arrests there, many fewer arrests than had been taking place around the collection points for the main protest. As I understand it, with the reports that have come in are that pro-ISA protest has been cancelled. Potentially, they might well have viewed that the police were doing their work for them.
Thank you very much indeed, Harry Fawcett, on the streets of Kuala Lumpur. Of course, we'll get back to Harry if the situation develops. Now let's cross to Laura.